Right now, thousands of used outboards are flooding the market. Prices are crashing, deals look incredible, and someone watching this video is about to make a $20,000 mistake because that motor sitting on the trailer, the one with low hours and a clean cowling, is hiding something. Something the seller won't tell you. Something even some dealers don't want you to know. 2025 is the most dangerous year in a decade to buy a used outboard. Not because the engines got worse, but because the market is full of traps. And most buyers won't see them until it's too late. Here's what you need to know before you hand over a single dollar. To understand why 2025 is unlike any year before it, you have to go back to the spring of 2020. The world shut down. Offices closed, vacations were canceled, and millions of people, stuck at home with stimulus checks and nowhere to go, discovered something they had forgotten: the water. Boat sales exploded. The National Marine Manufacturers Association reported that new powerboat sales surged to levels not seen since the late 1990s. Dealers couldn't keep inventory on the lot. Manufacturers scrambled to meet demand. Mercury, Yamaha, Suzuki, and Honda ramped up production lines, hiring new workers and extending shifts just to keep pace with the flood of orders. For nearly 2 years, the marine industry lived in a golden era. Waiting lists stretched for months. Buyers paid above MSRP just to secure a spot. And outboard motors, especially high-horsepower models, became as coveted as luxury cars. But golden eras don't last forever. By late 2023, the Federal Reserve had pushed interest rates past 7%. Boat loans that once seemed affordable became financial burdens. A monthly payment that was manageable at 4% suddenly felt crushing at 8%. And just like that, demand collapsed. The problem was, production didn't stop. Factories that had tooled up for record output were still churning out inventory. Dealers who had ordered aggressively during the boom found themselves sitting on boats and motors that nobody wanted to finance. According to industry analysts, new powerboat sales dropped 16% in 2023 and another estimated 9% in 2024. The result was inevitable. Trade-ins piled up, repossessions increased, and a wave of used outboards, many from the 2020 to 2023 model years, flooded the secondary market. This is where the danger begins, because not all of these motors are coming from careful owners who simply decided to upgrade. The used outboard market in 2025 is fed by 3 very different types of sellers. And understanding who you're buying from is the first step to protecting yourself. The first type is the over-leveraged owner. This is the buyer who purchased a $150,000 boat in 2021, financed at a rate that seemed reasonable at the time. Now, with higher payments and a boat worth less than what they owe, they're desperate to sell. The motor becomes a way to recover some cash. But here's the risk. Many of these owners deferred maintenance to cut costs. Oil changes were skipped. Impellers weren't replaced. The motor looks fine on the outside, but inside, neglect has already begun its work. The second type is the dealer trade-in dump. During the boom years, dealerships accepted used outboards on trade, confident they could flip them quickly. Now, with inventory backing up and floor plan interest eating into profits, those same dealers are liquidating. Some are reputable. Others are moving units fast, without verifying service histories or running proper diagnostics. The third type is the most dangerous of all, the flipper. These are buyers who purchase repossessed or auction units, clean them cosmetically, and list them online with vague descriptions and attractive prices. They know exactly what they're selling. They're counting on you not to ask the right questions. A marine technician in Florida with over 2 decades of experience working on Mercury outboards put it this way. He said he's seen 3 2022 Verados come through his shop this year, all sold as being in great condition. 2 had corroded engine control units from saltwater flooding. 1 had a cracked lower unit that only showed up under pressure testing. The sellers knew. They just didn't disclose. And this is the market you're walking into. The flood of used outboards hitting the market would be manageable if every motor told its own story honestly. But engines don't speak. They hide their damage behind polished cowlings and fresh paint. And unless you know what to look for, brand by brand, model by model, you're gambling with your money. Let's start with Mercury, because that's where most of the questions are. The Verado line has been the industry benchmark for over a decade. Supercharged performance, refined power delivery, unmatched mid-range torque. When Mercury launched the V8 and V10 Verado platforms, they set a new standard for what an outboard could be. But excellence comes with complexity, and complexity creates opportunities for failure. On the 2018 to 2021 Verado models, particularly in the 250 to 400 horsepower range, technicians have documented recurring issues with the electro-hydraulic steering pump. The symptom is subtle at first: intermittent steering stiffness, especially during cold starts. Left unaddressed, it progresses to full pump failure. Replacement costs range from $2,000 to over $4,000, depending on the shop. There's another issue that doesn't show up on a visual inspection. The early Generation 3 Verado 300s, built between 2018 and 2020, developed a reputation for fuel injector fouling, particularly in regions where ethanol blend fuels are common. The result is rough idling, hesitation under load, and long-term combustion chamber deposits that reduce efficiency and performance. If the service records don't show regular fuel system cleaning on a motor with more than 400 hours, assume the work is overdue. Budget accordingly. Now let's talk about Yamaha, the brand that built its reputation on reliability. Yamaha's F-Series outboards have the lowest reported failure rate in the industry. They're naturally aspirated, mechanically straightforward, and they hold their resale value better than almost anything else on the water. But even Yamaha isn't immune to supply chain pressures. In 2022, Yamaha quietly issued a technical service bulletin affecting the F300 and F350 models produced between 2020 and 2022. The issue was premature water pump impeller wear, linked to a supplier change made during the COVID-era parts shortages. If caught early, the fix is simple, about $400 for parts and labor. But if the impeller degrades without detection, overheating follows. And overheating leads to head gasket damage. That repair starts at $3,500 and can climb past $6,000. When inspecting any used Yamaha from this period, watch the telltale water stream at idle. A weak or inconsistent flow is your warning sign. Suzuki occupies an interesting space in the market. Their DF250 through DF350 range is often overlooked by buyers focused on Mercury and Yamaha, but the motors are competitive. Strong performance, reasonable pricing, and solid dealer support in coastal regions. The risk with Suzuki lies in the 2017 to 2020 model years, where technicians have reported shift cable bushing wear on the DF250 AP and DF300 AP. The symptom is sloppy shift engagement, a vague, delayed feeling when moving between forward, neutral, and reverse. Left alone, it accelerates transmission wear. There's also a practical concern. Outside major US markets, Suzuki parts availability can lag. In Australia and parts of Canada, delays of 4 to 6 weeks are not uncommon for certain components. Honda rounds out the big four. The BF200 through BF250 outboards are mechanically robust, fuel-efficient, and smooth, but Honda's market share has been declining for years, which means fewer specialty technicians and a shrinking support network. The 2015 to 2019 BF225 models also showed a pattern of electrical issues, intermittent gauge failures, and trim relay problems that frustrate owners and complicate diagnosis. And then there's Evinrude, the brand that no longer exists. In May of 2020, BRP, the parent company of Evinrude, announced it was discontinuing the brand entirely. After over a century of production, Evinrude was gone. No more new motors, no more factory support, just thousands of E-Tech G2 outboards already in circulation and a shrinking pool of parts and technicians to keep them running. Today, those G2 motors, 150 to 300 horsepower, are being sold at steep discounts, $8,000 to $12,000 below comparable Yamaha or Mercury units. The temptation is real, but the long-term cost of ownership is rising every year. Parts are harder to find. Authorized service centers are rare. One experienced technician put it bluntly: if you can't wrench it yourself, budget $1,500 a year just to keep an Evinrude running. So how do you protect yourself in a market filled with hidden risks and motivated sellers? You follow a system. Every time, without exception. It starts before you ever see the motor. The paper trail is your first line of defense. Before you drive to a seller's location, before you shake hands or talk price, demand documentation. Not just receipts, actual work orders from a marine shop or dealership. You want complete service records that show what was done, when it was done, and who did it. You want original purchase documentation that confirms the first owner date and the selling dealer. You want an engine hour log that you can compare against the hours displayed on the gauge. And you want proof of recall or technical service bulletin compliance verified directly with the manufacturer using the motor's serial number. If a seller tells you they did all the maintenance themselves, ask for parts receipts. No receipts means no proof, and no proof means no deal. Once the paperwork checks out, you move to the visual inspection. On land, start with the lower unit. Look for fishing line wrapped around the prop shaft seal, a common source of seal damage and water intrusion. Check for white residue around the drain plug, which indicates gear oil contamination. Examine the skeg and cavitation plate for signs of grounding. Even minor impact damage can translate to internal shaft issues that won't reveal themselves until the motor is under load. Move to the cowling. Fading and minor scratches are normal. Cracks, misaligned seams, or evidence of repainting are not. These can indicate prior impact or long-term salt corrosion that compromised the motor's protection. Check the anodes. These sacrificial pieces of metal protect the motor from galvanic corrosion. Severely pitted or depleted anodes suggest the motor spent years in salt water without proper maintenance. If possible, get the motor on the water. A cold start test is essential. The motor should fire within 3 cranks. Anything longer suggests ignition or fuel delivery issues. At idle, listen for smooth, consistent operation. Rough idling can indicate injector problems, compression imbalance, or sensor failures. Run the motor to full throttle. Feel for vibration. Listen for knocking, and watch for hesitation. Then cycle through the gears slowly. Forward, neutral, reverse. Transitions should be clean and immediate. Any clunking or delay is a warning. Back on land, request a compression test and a leak down test. These 2 diagnostics reveal the internal health of the motor better than any visual inspection. A compression test measures the pressure each cylinder generates. All cylinders should be within 10% of each other. Variance above 15% indicates potential ring or valve issues that will cost thousands to repair. A leak down test goes deeper. It measures how much air escapes from each cylinder and identifies whether the loss is through the valves, the rings, or the head gasket. Any cylinder showing more than 15% leak down warrants further investigation before you commit. Most marine shops charge between $75 and $150 for both tests. That investment could save you 10 times as much. The final step in your inspection protocol is the diagnostic scan, and it may be the most important. Modern outboards built from 2015 onward are sophisticated computers wrapped in fiberglass and metal. They store data, fault codes, hour logs, temperature events, over-rev incidents, and unlike a seller's memory, the computer doesn't lie. Request a dealer-level diagnostic scan before you finalize any purchase, not a generic OBD reader from an auto parts store. A proper scan using manufacturer-specific software. Mercury has their diagnostic system. Yamaha has theirs. Each one reads the motor's complete history. What you're looking for are the events that sellers don't mention. Over-rev events indicate the motor was pushed beyond its limits, often a sign of aggressive or improper use. Overheat events, even a single one, can cause internal damage that won't manifest for months. And stored fault codes that were cleared but never actually repaired tell you the previous owner was hiding problems rather than fixing them. One technician described a recent experience that captures this perfectly. A seller swore the motor had been babied. Low hours, careful operation, always maintained. Then the diagnostic scan revealed 6 over-rev events and 2 high-temperature warnings. That motor wasn't babied. It was abused. The scan told the truth the seller wouldn't. Once you've completed your inspection, you enter the negotiation phase with knowledge most buyers don't have. And in a flooded market, knowledge is leverage. Start by establishing true market value. Use multiple pricing tools, NADA guides, BUC value, and sold listings on BoatTrader. Not asking prices, sold prices. There's a significant difference between what sellers hope to get and what buyers actually pay. Adjust your valuation for specific factors. Hours matter. The industry baseline is roughly 100 hours per year for recreational use. Geographic history matters. A motor that spent its life in saltwater depreciates faster than one used exclusively in freshwater. And included accessories matter. Controls, rigging, and propellers add value, but only if they're in good condition. Here's a concrete example. A 2021 Mercury Verados 300 with 320 hours and full controls is worth approximately $17,500 to $19,000 in today's market. If the listing says $22,000, you're being asked to overpay by 15% or more. Every finding from your inspection becomes a negotiation point. Missing service records should reduce the price by 10 to 15%. Because you're assuming risk the seller can't document away. An impeller that hasn't been replaced in over 2 years justifies a $400 to $600 reduction. A failed compression reading on even one cylinder warrants $1,500 to $3,000 off, minimum. Cosmetic cowling damage, cracks, chips, or sun fading takes another $300 to $700 off the fair price. And if the seller refuses to allow a diagnostic scan, you have 2 choices: walk away entirely or demand a 20% discount to compensate for the unknown risks you're inheriting. Some deals cannot be saved at any price. Learn to recognize the walk-away triggers. If a seller refuses a pre-purchase inspection by a qualified marine technician, that's a walk-away. If the hours displayed on the gauge don't match the diagnostic report, that's a walk-away. If you find evidence of saltwater flooding, corrosion inside the cowling, white residue on electrical connectors, pitting on internal components, that's a walk-away. And if the motor has any history of submersion, insurance claims, or salvage title, there is no discount deep enough to justify the risk. In a market flooded with inventory, the best deals don't go to desperate buyers. They go to patient ones. Buyers who understand that walking away from a bad deal is the first step toward finding a good one. Because the opportunity is real. It's just hiding behind the risk. The picture we've painted so far is cautionary. Hidden damage, deferred maintenance, sellers who know more than they're telling. But here's the other side of the story. One that patient, informed buyers are already taking advantage of. 2025 is not just the most dangerous year to buy a used outboard, it's also the best. The same forces that created risk have created opportunity. Inventory is high. Dealers are motivated to move aging trade-ins before floor plan interest eats further into their margins. Private sellers who overpaid during the boom are now realistic about what their motors are worth. And for the first time in years, buyers have genuine leverage. Prices on high-horsepower used outboards have dropped 20 to 35% from their pandemic-era peaks. Motors that were impossible to find in 2021 are now sitting on trailers, waiting for the right offer. The manufacturers have noticed too. Mercury, Yamaha, and Suzuki have all expanded their certified pre-owned programs, offering factory-backed warranties on qualified used motors sold through participating dealers. These programs aren't cheap. Expect to pay 10 to 15% more than a comparable private sale, but they dramatically reduce your risk. A certified pre-owned outboard comes with a multi-point inspection, verified service history, and a limited powertrain warranty, typically 1 to 2 years. For buyers who want peace of mind more than the lowest possible price, certified pre-owned is worth serious consideration. But if you're willing to do the work, to inspect, verify, and negotiate, the private market holds exceptional value right now. Based on depreciation curves, reliability data, and parts availability, here's where the smart money is looking. For the best overall value, consider the Yamaha F250 or F300 from the 2019 to 2021 model years. These are proven platforms with strong resale value, predictable maintenance intervals, and an extensive dealer network. They've depreciated enough to be affordable, but not so much that you're inheriting someone else's problem. For budget-conscious buyers, the Suzuki DF200 through DF250, model years 2018 to 2020, offers outstanding performance relative to price. These motors are consistently undervalued in the secondary market, partly because Suzuki lacks the brand cachet of Mercury or Yamaha. That's an advantage for buyers who care more about function than status. For those seeking high performance, the Mercury Verados 350 and 400 from 2021 and 2022 have stabilized in price after their initial steep depreciation. If you can find one with complete service records and a clean diagnostic scan, you're getting one of the most refined outboards ever built, at a price that would have been unthinkable 3 years ago. And finally, a word of caution. Unless you're mechanically self-sufficient and comfortable sourcing your own parts, avoid the Evinrude G2 for now. The prices are tempting. The long-term cost of ownership is not. As you move forward into this market, remember what separates a good deal from a disaster. It's not luck, it's not timing, it's preparation. Knowing what questions to ask, knowing what tests to run, knowing when the smartest move is to walk away. The water doesn't care what you paid for your motor. It doesn't care about the deal you thought you were getting or the promises a seller made. The water only cares whether your engine starts when you turn the key and keeps running when you're miles from shore. So before you hand over your money, make sure you know what you're buying. Inspect it, test it, verify it, and if something feels wrong, trust that instinct. Because out there, beyond the dock, there are no refunds. If you're researching a specific outboard model and want us to take a deeper look, drop it in the comments below. And if this video helped you avoid a costly mistake or gave you the confidence to find the right deal, consider subscribing. We're just getting started.